if not everybody is vaccinated.
Where you have the deep state controlled by the rulers of the darkness of this world, that the nations gave their power to the beast.
The pandemic's not finished.
We are looking forward to working with each of you.
RNA vaccines are a miracle, but they weren't perfect.
You are still studying, and then you make the vaccine compulsory?
Who's telling them what to do?
We are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution.
The deep state, they have no respect for the things of God. They have no respect for God. China today is the deep state's test ground. They make decisions that affect human lives.
A new class of humans, the useless class.
Well, we can't be dealing with you unless we know you're vaccinated.
Then you put your life and your hope in the hands of people who don't know whether what they're going to do will work or not.
We have to prepare for a more angry world.
Naturally acquired immunity is as good as a vaccine.
We're using the facts, we're following the science and following the law.
You don't base no science at all. It has become a cult and you don't even realize it. The dominions, rulers of darkness, men have been deceived. These control the deep state. Lifted off the ground, about a foot in the air, and lowered just gently back to the ground. Christ is in me. Christ is in me. It went through every fiber of my being, every bone of my body. Christ is at work in me. Christ is alive in me. Oh, I could tell you many things. All right, so that's verse 27. To whom God will make known what is the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Oh, you remember Romans 3:23 that we read? All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But in Christ, glory has come back. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Hallelujah. Glory was lost, but glory has come back. And angels come back. It came right inside you. Right inside. So everywhere we go today, we are Christ in you persons. I'm a Christ in you person. You're a Christ in you person. Wherever you are, you know Christ is in you. You are not an ordinary person. Christ is in you. The Spirit of Christ is right inside you. Doesn't matter where you go. Have the consciousness. Have the consciousness. You see, until you have the consciousness, you cannot act unconsciously in the kingdom. You know, you come to the point where you act unconsciously. I mean, the Spirit's just doing things through you. But before that happens, there has to be the consciousness. I talk about Christ consciousness. You have to begin your life with Christ.
Well, this is Chronicles of Prophecy. Welcome to the show. It is the grand finale. That is the time that we've all been waiting. No, in fact, I have not been waiting for the grand finale. Let me not even say that. I wish we could extend it by 2 more days. You know, I always say that, right? That I wish the grand finale would actually finish like on a Saturday, if not a Sunday. But it is the grand finale of season 6, phase 1, and this is day 5. So congratulations to the body of Christ. You see, I was just listening to what Pastor was saying there. This is a recap from yesterday. Christ in you people. We are the Christ in you people. Because we have that Christ consciousness. Isn't that beautiful?
It's wonderful.
So you walk around, you're like, I'm a Christ in you person.
Yeah.
No matter the circumstance.
Exactly, and that's a point of victory. That's how you grow into starting to experience the things that the man of God was talking about yesterday, right? Where the more you stay your mind and your spirit on this particular consciousness, the more you meditate on it, the more you start experiencing the things that the man of God was saying yesterday.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he said the glory was taken away back then
for all had fallen short. But thank God for Christ. And now it makes a lot of sense when you say Christ in me, the hope of glory.
The hope of glory. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
So Christ-conscious people. Beautiful. So we know today, I know we started at 7 o'clock, but it's because we've been enjoying the 25 years celebration that have been happening live from Nigeria. Beautiful time. Now, I just want to quickly show you a video clip that, you know, some of our correspondents were out and about, just randomly asking people about Pastor Chris. I want to just show you quickly in a very short video the impact, though, that Pastor Chris's television ministry has. Have a listen to this.
Back in South Africa. Of course, we're on the streets. We're still celebrating 25 years of Pastor Chris on television. Of course, on the streets, we've been talking to people. You know that the man of God has been leading the church. It has been a battle, not a battle of ideas, but this has been so much spiritual than anything. So we've been talking to people here about Pastor Chris. I had an opportunity to speak to some of them. Please have a listen to what they had to say.
Ngambona nje kuma station TVs.
Ukumbona umabona good. Ayenzani?
Ethandazela nje abantu.
I don't know much about him because I'm a Muslim, but what I know about him, you cannot be in Randburg and then you don't know Pastor Chris.
What is it that you heard about him?
A good thing, and sometimes normally, especially when I happen to watch TV, especially on Sunday, I might listen to his speech, and I don't pay much of attention, but I can hear that what he's saying is a very valuable teaching that he's doing.
Would you say he has impacted the world in how
so
he
many
has?
ways.
Yeah.
That one I can't wait for you to done. Yeah. He has impacted the world in so many ways, in a good ways as well.
See miracles. Yeah. He's a pastor. He's praying for the people.
Well, I can tell you now that everybody knows Pastor Chris on the street. In fact, the guy that I spoke to, he mentioned that he's actually Muslim, but he knows Pastor Chris. And I can tell you now that everybody knows Pastor Chris for praying for people and, of course, the good things that he has been doing over the years. Well, Belle, that's all I have for now. It is back to you in studio.
All right, you have been speaking to Belle in an earlier show that we were talking about Pastor Chris's 25 years. But think about that. This was just random. We've got a whole lot more, but we just decided to show you a shorter video of it because of time. People randomly. Did you hear that guy? He said, you cannot be in Randburg and not know about Pastor Chris.
Sure. Of which that's the whole truth, if not any other truth you can find, because you're looking at a case where just like Jesus Christ was actually broadly known in the areas within Israel. You know, every man knew that Jesus Christ was there. He was doing good amongst the society. And when you look at what Pastor has actually done, even through television ministry, definitely you should expect such a response to say, I do know him, because, like he said, the credentials of a man of God, when you take the healing ministry to the world or to the nations, you definitely are going to be noised abroad. And then you're also looking at the teaching. Remember, you also showed us the teaching of Jesus Christ, how it's very different from any other person. And Pastor has got a different message. The message itself, for example, just the message that he preached this week to us during Your Love World, if you're to take it anyway, definitely someone will fall in love with him, and they would know him, and they would start telling their relatives, their nations, to say, there is a man with a message, and I think you have to hear it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And there's a man with a message that must be heard. I'm just thinking the fact that God told him that you've got a message that must be heard, and even the people that practice their own religions are listening to this man. They are listening to him. He has penetrated to the point of just getting even in the places where you would think, no, this place, people cannot just be listening to this man. I remember there's a guy in Ghana who is also a Muslim who was calling on the show, who was saying, I'm watching your program, and Pastor Chris was sharing A, B, C, D, E. So these are the people that are earmarked for the 7 billion.
Oh, wow, I like that.
If you can get healed at any time, you just have to hang around. It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
So there's something Pastor himself said. I think he was talking about North Korea, that even healing streams in North Korea, no matter how they say and no matter what they say, everybody wants to get healed.
Yeah.
And that is something that God uses to like accentuate, to push the frontiers of the kingdom.
That's it.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you call yourself. once you start listening to the message, you start getting healed, and you gradually start believing Jesus is Lord, call yourself whatever, you're born again. You get what I'm trying to say? And just keep listening, keep doing what he said, that's fine. So some people do not know they are already in that meal, or that the pipeline of change. Yeah. So it's a testimony, and this is what God is doing, and this is how God does His stuff. It's not in the headquarters of the NGOs and the supra nationals. It's actually in the hearts of people, where Christ can dwell.
Beautiful. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. You know, it was so random. Everybody has something, whether they were taxi drivers, people selling on the streets, people just walking on the streets. They were like, oh yeah, Pastor Chris. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. The impact of the brand. Do you understand? The impact of the brand, Pastor Chris, I promise you. I told you, let me just quickly share this. At an airport once, they wanted to open my bags, and I don't like that. Can I be honest? Because you know what, a woman, when we pack, pack. Well, I'm telling you now. I don't know that. And opening a bag it's a whole hustle on its own. And I don't like opening my bag. So they wanted to open my bag, and they insisted. I said, but you know, you can't. No. I was trying to negotiate my way out. They said, where are you coming from? I said, from a church conference. They said, what church conference? I said, do you know Pastor Chris? They said, oh, Pastor Chris. Okay, it's fine, you can go. Huh?
Yeah.
Beautiful. The brand. I was so happy. I said, thank God. I'm Pastor Chris's daughter.
I'll use it someday.
No, you should use it always. The brand, so beautiful. All right, so let's get into some of the stories that we want to share with you today. So have a listen to this shocking and false statement from Yuval Noah Harari about minors.
So if people tell you boys love boys, boys love girls, and it's against nature that a boy would love a boy, and you're, 14 years old, and you feel that you're actually attracted to other boys, that experience is far more truthful than any story anybody tells you. And that's science. So if people tell you that it's against the laws of nature, it's not about God. It's against the laws of nature for two men to love each other or to live together, then you go to the scientists who are the experts in the laws of nature, and they tell you, don't listen to that. Nothing that exists can break the laws of nature. If something actually exists, it means it is in line with the laws of nature.
I've never heard such a confused being. Now listen to him. It's not about God, but it's about nature. Where did nature come from?
God. Ideally, that's how the humanists actually believe.
Yeah.
They think that way. Remove God, that's the mindset. Remove God, and then we can purify men, the operations of men, the thinkings of men, and hence they talk about intellectualism, the purity of the mind or the brain. And it shouldn't be shocking to actually hear somebody like Noah Harari actually coming, because he's a humanist. One of the key things that they want to actually dismiss is actually God himself. We are talking of God the Father, Adonai. And they would want to pretend like there is no other God that they are bringing with this kind of setup. But ideally, they are also bringing their own God. Behind that, you can actually tell. For example, we know by the identification of, being gay is something that is synonymous with the Antichrist. It's actually there in the scriptures. So when you start hearing somebody saying, should be okay for two men to actually be together, and this is the law of nature, and it shouldn't be about God, you know exactly which God they are trying to actually point to. And on top of that, he actually said something even more ludicrous, if I should say. He said, I only discovered later in my lifetime that I was actually gay, and would want an algorithm to be able to help children to discover quickly.
Yes, so if children are male and say they're actually female, that's natural, and it should be respected. This is what he's telling us.
Yeah, but the other guy was nodding because I think he was there to nod. He said that the scientists are the experts in the laws of nature. Now that is falsity. That is a lie. They don't even know the laws of nature. And it's not a lie because I said so. It's a lie because many of today's scientists now are going back to the East to find out about the laws of nature.
Sure.
Many of them. when, what's his name?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs died. There was a book. Let's not advertise the book in this show. There was one book that was in his iPad. He reads that book once a year. Now, he was the one who brought Mark Zuckerberg, one of the Google founders, the founder of eBay. Every once in a year, they run to India. They run to these various temples. So don't ever believe that these guys just do science.
They have a spiritual...
in touch with spiritism. One book, he reads it once a year. So it's since he was 40, he has read that book as long as he has been old, every year. And that book is all about that, how they ascend. They go. That was why they said he was Buddhist, because they found him in some temples. But he actually claims to be secular. But if you see a lot of his stuff, go look into that temple, is not actually Buddhism. It's some level of, it's not new thought, it's not new age, but they travel. Let's just put it that way. They travel, and they call it meditation. They travel, they project. They project. And these guys would not go to India if it was all about science.
Wow.
It would not go there. Now, that book, the author of that book came from India to the United States, Yoganandan. He came there, and what he did in his first 5 years, he won converts all over Silicon Valley. All over Silicon Valley. And in 5 years, he made it to the White House under Carter. So these people talk about scientists, know nature. They have to say it because they want to evade real questions.
That's the deceitfulness.
But when you ask Mark Zuckerberg, all this meta you're talking about, what did you get when you went to India? You go there, you come back with a new prayer. You go there, you come back with a new prayer. Let's think about it. There was a slap in an Oscar, right? And he said he wanted rehabilitation. What's Will Smith?
Will Smith, yeah.
He went to India.
For rehabilitation.
For rehabilitation. When Tiger Woods, when that first case, he had an accident and it cost his marriage, and he lost a lot of endorsement. He just went down the drain. He went to India
as well, yeah.
For meditation.
I remember that.
Don't just listen when they say go to India. Try to find out, where did he go? You get exactly what I'm saying. They're all going to the same, and they're all doing the same thing. So when he tells you the scientists know the laws of, no. They go there, they find something, then they come out to make equations to explain what they found. And that is the whole concept of science. Yeah, he's absolutely wrong. And I'm sure he goes somewhere too.
Yes.
Where the devil teaches him to bring out
to speak like this, in actual fact, for him to speak like that.
The spirituality of life. Even the wicked is spiritual. Just think about it that way.
It's a demon, it's a spirit.
Sure. So I'm trying to understand, if something exists in nature, it means it's part of nature? Is that what he's saying?
Anything else that is out of nature is not true. I think that's what he's saying. Anything that exists out of nature is not true. It has to be nature.
So if it can survive in nature, it is natural.
It is part. That's a lie. Viruses, are they now in nature?
In nature.
Are they natural? They arrive.
He doesn't want to go down there. I'm sure he would. He doesn't.
What do the scientists say?
I don't even think he's actually looking at those things that you're pointing. He's looking at, can we remove God in the equation? And then you find out they understand very well it's difficult for you to remember. When you're talking of God, you are selling an invisible God that if you happen to actually meet Jesus Christ, of course, he can actually point to say, this is how God looks. Yeah. In their sense, they understand very well, how do we move humans away from this idea of serving the true God? Say, he's not there in nature. Anything else that you'd want to actually give to God as a deity is something that you can't actually prove in nature. Of course, you can actually prove in nature. But it's just a smart way of actually bringing the things that they think we can win over people's hearts. Just simply, when you look at humanists and humanism, it's all about erase God and then push men and then a bit of technology there, which is why they talk about science.
Puts man as the new God.
God, exactly. Yeah. So they're trying to be the God that exists within the nature that they're saying, forget God. But they want this one being of theirs to be the God that exists in nature and be accepted. It's so deceitful. Can you see that? Now, the whole logic of now asking what you're asking, what about the viruses? And no. Forget that.
Go down there.
That one, forget it. When it's time to present the virus, they'll bring in science.
Yes.
And if it's possible for them to bring nature, they will still do it. In this case, the God that we know that sits and reigns from heaven does not exist. You are imagining things as far as they're concerned. You understand? There's nothing like that. Have you seen him? So how do you speak about him?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Have you ever experienced him? Because if you have not seen him, as far as they're concerned, you have not experienced him. But they don't understand now that the true being of God is the fact that we experience without seeing.
Yes.
You see, we experience God. That's why we said we are God in me people.
Yes.
You see, that's a different thing altogether. If you were to speak to Noah Harari and tell him that I'm a God in me person, Christ consciousness, he will tell you you've lost it.
And this is not hate speech.
It is hate speech in its full form.
Exactly. So this is because this then is the starting point of wanting to actually persecute people that then believe in God. Because
Yes,
these are
absolutely.
the so-called technocrats, right? That are pushing this because.
This one is not even a technocrat. He's a historian.
He's not. Exactly. He is not a technocrat.
And he's gay. That's what he is.
He is not a technocrat. He is not a scientist. This is why we must look at things spiritual, because there is nothing from his academic background that gives him an authority to say anything he is saying. Absolutely none. That gives him an authority. When he talks of science, he's not a scientist. At best, he's a historian, but he rarely talks history. So
it would have been a different thing, at least if he spoke about Charles Darwin's theory.
Exactly.
You know?
He's not a historian. He's not a... Okay, let's give it to him. He's a philosopher because he has some philosophy. But when someone like that speaks with such authority and you see all the backdoor consultations are with such a person, then there is a force, there's a being in such a one that they're seeking. He's not giving knowledge. There's nothing he says that is actually true knowledge. Even at the science level, his talk on science is very superficial. He doesn't go into science can do this. How? He doesn't talk about it. Like I said, the last speech he gave, it was HTML code. That was so I was in the community of developers where I said like, and I brought it in. No, that's HTML code. Oh, CSS. Who's doing that? A lot of people didn't even know about him, but they don't know how much he affects his country, their countries. Yeah. So the authority in him is rather spiritual. It's not because physically there's no qualification that puts him out there for everyone to seek his opinion on the future of humanity.
Huh.
Who is he?
Who is he? On the future of humanity.
Of humanity, absolutely. Who is he? That's a very good question. So that's just another very ignorant. He's even misinformed himself.
Yeah, sure.
You understand? He's so disinformed at the same time, and he's just allowing the devil to use him as the mouthpiece of the devil. It's shameful, really. Now, before I move on, I wanted you to speak about this whole hack thing, because I think yesterday we spoke a lot about it.
Yeah. So yesterday, just so that you get the context, we talked about the chips in the brain, Internet of Brains.
Yes.
And so far, the market has determined that they want to look at the legal practitioners as the first test bed or the
and we
deployment
were asking
area.
About why the legal practitioners are being targeted.
And a lot of you callers actually were like really concerned about why is it lawyers? How would they do it? What will be the effect? Now, let's just talk about one of the effects that nobody's talking about, and that is security. So while we were having that meeting, something happened yesterday in the technology world. Apple disclosed a serious security vulnerability that is in iPhones, iPads, Mac. So anything Mac 10.x and forward, it had this. And the problem with that is that hackers can use it to take full control of the machine. So I, for one, I use a Mac Pro, and once I got home and I opened it and I saw the alert and I did my update. So while doing the update, I thought about it. So if someone can use this security breach to take over the machine, imagine if that breach was in a chip.
Okay, so in essence, what you're saying is the vulnerability was taking over the machine.
Allowing somebody outside the machine through an internet connection to take over the machine.
And become the machine.
Yes, and so you have the machine in front of you, but you cannot use it.
So somebody else is now using your machine. Now think about it as a brain chip in a human being.
Now think about that vulnerability, and this is not the first of many vulnerabilities. The last one was the Log4j. For those who are in that field, Log4j vulnerability that happened like 2 months ago. And Apple added that it is aware of the report that this issue may have been actively exploited. That means there are some machines connected to the internet whom the owners no longer own, unless they have to pull the plug. Security experts have advised users to urgently update affected devices, and this would include iPhone 6X and later models, newer iPads, Mac computers running Mac OS Monterey, so that's 10.0 and above. In a security update on the support page, Apple said one of the flaws means a malicious application may be able to execute arbitrary code with kernel privileges. Now, kernel privileges, the way to put it here is those codes that actually integrate with the hardware, with the chips on the board. And this privilege, which Ted Crunch describes as meaning full access not only to your software, but also to your hardware. So they could activate microphones, they could activate camera, they could literally do anything that the original owner used to do, including denying the original owner privileges to do that going forward.
Wow.
So they can, in other words, they can kick you out of your house. Why not entering your house? That's the easiest way to put it.
Let's.
So,
okay.
So Ted Crunch reported that the other bug, so it's not just one, there's another one, WebKit could be exploited if a vulnerable device accessed or processed maliciously crafted web content that may lead to arbitrary code execution. This one is quite popular. The warning to users come ahead of his traditional September launch of the latest iPhone. So we're expecting the latest iPhone that they expected this year, called iPhone 14.
I don't even trust them in the first place anyway.
I was about to
this update is like it updated, incorporating something in it. I don't trust these guys.
So the point is, usually, why you should believe this is that once we read the CVS, so every vulnerability has a vulnerability code, you can actually test it. That means I can test if you have any of these devices. I can take that EVS, write a code to do it, and hack just to see if it works. And that was why, once it happened, people started exploiting other people's computers. Right? Like I said, just between last night and this morning, I had to do that update. The reason is that I don't want to be the one they would test against. Are you getting the point? And when it happened 3 months ago with the Log4j, a lot of financial institution servers in Europe were taken over. They just send in money. They send in money with your machine. You can't even touch it. The only thing you can do is go pull the plug. That's the only thing you can do. So some of these updates, yes. There are some others. Now, when we go into the history of updates and backdoors, have you heard about that before?
Yeah.
The history of backdoors. Some of these backdoors are actually intentionally put there. Not everything is a mistake. In some cases, they put this backdoor. For instance, it has been released that NSA has many times asked Microsoft to put backdoors into their machines so that when they need it, they can access people's computers using that particular OS.
Wow. Interesting. You were saying you don't believe them as well?
Well, remember, they already actually gave us a sort of like prelude. What happened with Facebook? And then they said, a whistleblower said what? And if you just trace back, Apple itself, like you said, Apple, Google, Meta now, and some of the other companies that are actually there from Silicon Valley, they have a very, very, very close relationship with the military.
Yep.
And remember, the military is the one that funded Silicon Valley to be what it is today because they had been kicked out of the academic institutions. And the academic institutions actually understood what the military was actually trying to do. For example, what they were doing in Vietnam, what they were doing even as early as the Second World War with the Nazis, where they were trying to actually use different mind control games. And they sent a lot of technologies that were actually inclined towards that. And when you look at it, this is the same iPhone or Apple that came out to say the iPhone is unhackable until the Federal Bureau wanted something.
Just leave.
And then
that's marketing.
It should tell you something about them. I think they knew remember, this is the time
it's
when
the simulations. Remember, they were talking about
it's the time that we're supposed to actually have
a
the
cyber
pandemic.
pandemic yesterday. We talked about a cyber pandemic yesterday.
Yeah, and this is after the World Economic Forum actually had their meeting.
Yes.
Remember, it was supposed to happen in July. It didn't happen.
No, they even had a meeting when we took the story yesterday, we were reporting that there was a meeting that had happened in the midnight of the day before or the day after. Now, you just came with evidence that the meeting was the simulation here because you now picked it up and this is the report. I'm telling you, it's all planned. So my question then, because my mind was racing upon receiving this news. So my question then was, imagine this chip is in a person and the person has been overtaken. Ooh. Already we've got people that are saying that upon them receiving the vaccinations, they now realize that there were now devices.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, we've got quite a few confirmations from people, quite a number, not even a few, where people are saying that in their homes, maybe when they switch on their smart TVs or even on Bluetoothing their phones, gadgets, they come up as
a device
as well. So just try and imagine the chaos this is going to be.
Yep.
I really believe that they're testing out these things. So the people that might be connectable, the devices that are hackable, whatever it is, this is their time to test what is going on.
There's also another possibility. Now, do these things have backdoors? Yes. Now, backdoor just means that secret endpoint that nobody knows that if they want to hack you, they use. Things like, what's the name again? The NSO, the one that came from Israel?
Or the Pegasus.
Pegasus, good. But what happens is if more than those who should know it has known it, it comes out as a bulletin. Everybody update, we want to close that back door. Then they put another back door. So any of these devices you hear they're going to plant in somebody, it already has a back door. It has a back. They cannot, you know why? Without that back door, they cannot update. That's when they say they are going to update remotely. For example, all Tesla vehicles.
Yes, remotely, that's it.
All Tesla vehicles have a back door to Tesla.
Yes, of course.
Such that if Tesla wants to reinstall the vehicle, they don't even need to ask you. There is a back door. Now, that back door, why they tell you it's for good, for updates, is actually multi-purpose, or let's say dual purpose.
Good,
one for
bad,
them, one for them, and the other one is for the update. Everyone, if they can update it remotely, like I updated the Mac remotely, there's a back door. Don't even try to be...
This is really not good news, though.
It's a back door.
Honestly speaking,
so
just think about
anybody who puts a device in them,
No
I'm
good.
telling you, with that technical depth of knowledge, there's a back door.
Wow, that's really bad. Now, still talking about the whole technology, innovation, nonsense that they've been telling us about, because obviously they want to use it for all bad things. Announced in 2021 by the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the line is set to be constructed, I think I'm talking about, I'm not sure why my story started in the middle there, but we're talking about the whole new smart cities, right? The construction of this new smart city as a roadless and careless smart city that will run purely on renewable energy. So the so-called global elites announced the launch of the Global Smart Cities Alliance on Technology Governance at the 2019 G20 Summit in Osaka, Japan. You remember that meeting? So as the International Organization for Public-Private Cooperation, the World Economic Forum was selected to be the secretariat of the G20 Global Smart Cities Alliance. So that spells out disaster.
True. They will take notes.
That spells out disaster. So the Smart Cities Alliance is claimed to be establishing global policy norms for data collection and use, transparency, public trust, and best practices in smart city governance. So from the outside, the city will look like an extremely long wall with mirrored exteriors on both sides. The prince explained that the idea of the city was to introduce layered communities where facilities are always just a 5-minute walk away and where residents can organically bump into each other while running their daily routines. As for the deceptive climate control, the prince says that the entire city will also boast a natural ventilation system that can maintain comfortable temperatures and conditions all year round, despite its location. As lovely and thoughtful as this may sound, we all know by now that these people don't just do things out of the goodness of their hearts. They want to control humans. They obviously have a selected class in mind. considering the fact that technology pulls people from the natural source that God has created, that is the Mother Earth. Why would anyone want to be a part of this smart city? Maybe that's a question you should be asking yourself, if at all your government or your community leaders are talking about a smart city, right? So this is clearly a classification of the New World Order versus the natural world order. And let me remind you, Noah Harari said, the class of those useless people, what's the best way to entertain them? Drugs and games. Yes. You remember that? Now have a listen to this.
Residents. For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that For too long, humanity has existed within dysfunctional and polluted cities that ignore nature. Now, a revolution in civilization is taking place. Imagine a traditional city and consolidating its footprint, designing to protect and enhance nature. The line will be home to 9 million residents and will be built with a footprint of just 34 square kilometers. And we are designing it to provide a healthier, more sustainable quality of life. The line's communities are organized in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, so that's the smart city. Now, I have a question, since you seem to, understand this whole thing. The smart city, really, what purpose does it serve? Let's say, even if we're going to talk about the good part of it, what purpose is it really going to serve?
Fully automated life, where you do less and more things happen. So smart city became more of a reality in around 2008, 2010 with the inception of big data, because the problem with hitherto was computing power and data, right? But now we're even thinking of creating quantum computers. So yeah, the possibilities are now really, really clear. But it's just absolute automation. But you see, that word is the blessing and the curse, because automation just means that things work without your human inputs, but it also means you are controlled, right? And that is why with the fourth industrial revolution has been more sicknesses, because people don't have need to move. Some people have not worked. They jump from their bed into a machine, into a car, to work, into another machine.
That,
so they've been actual studies to do the correlation of certain types of diseases and the fourth industrial revolution, because the natural inclination of man that was built into even make man healthy, man is now circumventing that. So the key word there is automation, but let me add that one, control. Automation for you, control for the service providers.
Sure.
That's a prison. That was a 34
exactly. That's
24-kilometer prison.
Yeah.
Where
a
you do
long wall like that.
In fact, even when you look at the different other revolutions, the so-called revolutions that are there, they were controlled. Just look at what is called development today. Why do we have a lot of people who live, for example, in Kibra, or in Lagos, or in Joburg, and then you have a lot of land that they could have actually been settled? It was also because the reasons were viable at that time. We need labor, we need them to actually access services like healthcare and the like. But you're looking at, this is a smart way of telling you are going to a concentration camp without telling you that it's a concentration camp. For example, if it's automated and it's one line and you are within the so-called 5 kilometers of moving around, there are so many things that are actually wrong with that. You need fresh air. They are saying they will, of course, give you fresh air. It also means you are not going to go anywhere. You are within that so-called line, that street.
Listen to what they lied to you and said. Organically meeting other people, organically bumping into other people.
That means you're not meeting people.
Yeah, you're organically
You're not people. See, let's talk about automation. The most automated and non-digital, the longest automated and non-digital environment is the prison. You do nothing.
Sure.
You just get up, you have a simple routine, the food is there, you do nothing. So, yeah, automation. That word itself, it sounds like a curse.
Even automation in the way that, your Henry Ford actually brought it. Remember, they were bringing people into, your mind should not actually think beyond what we have actually decided for you. So you are just assembling. If you are assembling screws, you are assembling screws until you retire. And you can't go anywhere. And this is how they even actually destroyed all the alternative schools that were there. To set a classroom, that the way the classroom is today, where it looks like, a proper automated system of some sort. And then they come out with this, I think it's a doubling up of the same efforts to say, you'll be in a prison and it will be digital and you're not going to do anything. And lest we forget, the Nazis were also making such promises.
Yeah.
Just go there and get a shower.
That's it.
It will be automated.
And it turned out it was a concentration
And how do you
camp.
organically meet people?
That's what I said, organically bumping into other people.
It's metaverse. Because if you notice, it's not a big place, but you're going to meet people. But it's a tiny, I'm talking about the width.
Yes.
It's like this. But the meeting people is
Do you
not
know?
physical. So it's metaverse. You just check with somebody who's 20 kilometers down the block in a metaverse, where the metaverse is built into the framework, the architecture of that whole place. So it's a meta. Now, this is the problem. We know the truth. We know what's going to happen. But what is going to be sold is different. And when they brand it, and the top companies, the Forbes 500, will start getting a portion of it, it will become the go-to place. Then it becomes the next meeting place for the World Economic Forum. Then leaders will go there. Everybody wants to get a plot of land there. It becomes then the next number one football player gets a portion. Then it becomes the go-to place for everybody. That is how these things get sold. We know where they're going to. And most people listening to us know where they're going to. But it's when they now brand it, and give me the name of these footballers, I can't remember them anymore. They start going there, but everybody now wants to belong. There's a belongingness thing in man that they tap. I want to belong. Okay, even if I can't get there, if I go there and get a shirt to show that I went there.
Because so-and-so was there. Then they start using the popular faces.
Serena Williams, good, she's there. There is and now we know Djokovic won't fall for something like that, but the Rafael Nadal's like, I'm there. Your Mercies and Cristiano Ronaldo, they're there. They're like, okay, I can't go there, but I can get there, get a shirt. We now belong. And they draw people with the spirit of the elitist. What I love Pastor said yesterday. We now have our own mindsets. We are Christ in you. So those things don't even move us.
Yeah. No,
all. This is, the things Pastor taught yesterday. You don't even need to pray to avoid all this. You don't need to pray.
No, because you live in the consciousness of Christ.
You naturally
the same is true with food.
Yeah,
we were talking about this yesterday. Listen, the food has been played around with in many ways, whether it's a GMO. In fact, I even have a story here where it talks about they've now moved on to vaccinating the animals. That people are now eating. I'll take that story. They're now vaccinating them. And then we are eating. But you see, we have to have that Christ consciousness to know that all these things can never affect. We live in the world, but we are not of the world.
So the reset that we would want to do is the one that is going to stay, not the ones that they actually
No, not the reset that they are trying to. You see, it's very much in line with what Pastor was saying.
Exactly.
There will be a reset, but not what they're planning.
Exactly. We sit out of these things, and we are creating our own systems. No wonder Pastor Chris has been admonishing the body of Christ to look at what we've got. The Christ in us, we are the solution, and the solution is not what they are presenting, because what they are presenting is a prison.
I'm just thinking of, what he has actually said, teaching us over the years. Man is connected to the land that he lives in. And remember, he actually gave an example to say, if you remove a certain group of people, let's say a tribe, a people that live within the land, what you might actually find out is the land can actually change in terms of the mineral composition, it can change it. And I'm asking myself, what happened to the Saudis with the oil? Somebody's telling you you're going to live in a very thin strip of land that is actually provided for you, when you could have actually just lived anywhere you want.
It's all about control.
And you're being dispossessed in the process.
Yeah, it is.
Remember, this is the land of tribes. That means all those tribes are, by the time that they're accepting to actually get in this digital prison, they are relinquishing all their lands.
But let me tell you, they've already shown you this whole thing, this whole high walls, they've shown you in movies. They've already put out movies that show people living in a very similar setup. And the unfortunate part is it also shows you what's going to happen to those people.
Yes.
They're captured, they're now imprisoned, they're in concentration camps, and you can't escape. Your life is not yours anymore. And that's how they even end up getting the chips of the mark of the devil.
You can't stay there without a chip.
Yeah, so you can't stay, you can't operate without the chip. It's horrible, but that's the plan for it. Smart city.
Just back to what Pastor, there was something, the biggest part of what I took yesterday was the the consciousness part that Pastor was really teaching. We cannot manifest the victory of Christ over these people with the same mindsets with which we have come.
Mm-hmm.
We are fortunate to have an example, and I mean this, in Pastor who has tested it and has a mindset that we can see is very fruit-bearing. So you cannot say, oh, Pastor has taught me, I'm gonna get there and avoid it. No, you must have that same mindset like he has.
Yes.
Because we are going to not just avoid this, we're going to dominate this thing.
Wonderful.
And that domination has to come with a mindset. So that fear mindset of, let me just escape the temptation of this world will not solve this one.
Yeah.
Is that mindset of, let me dominate. I will never forget, the pastor said, for he must reign until his enemies are put under him. He must reign until.
Yes.
If we are going to do that, we must equip ourselves with everything we've been taught, with this I call it discipleship in the sense of these phases and seasons of what we've been taught, to get our mindset like, I'm not battling this thing to escape it. I'm not battling it to avoid a chip. I'm battling it to bring this under his feet.
That's it. Yes. Completely destroy it. Now, just quickly, please just read the messages.
All right. Our first message comes from Zimbabwe. Buyam Lambo says, how can they say...
Buyam Lambo?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
She says, how can they say overpopulation, yet they are the ones using the more resources? And then Anonymous from Nigeria is asking, is there a way to access previous shows, episodes of Chronicles of Prophecy? And then Murena Uteng Moyo, Gwanda from Zimbabwe, says, greetings, dear wonderful people. On lawyers being chipped for the pseudo purposes of quick reading documents, what then happens when a lawyer resigns from the practice? Would they then remove the chip? I doubt it. This is simply satanic as usual. They have run out of excuses to hide their evil agenda. Our prayers have exposed their foolishness. Many thanks to our man of God, Reverend Chris Oyakilome. We are winning and kinging over the deep state till rapture.
Amen. Okay, now because of time, I think we'll answer some of those questions when we come back in the other hours. So because of time, we have to go into the grand finale.
Amen.
It is the day that we've all been waiting for, and be a part of it. You have to listen to what Pastor has to say today. You can't miss it. Let's start off phase 6 with a bang, okay? And end it with a bang.
Amen.
Right? Because season 6, all the phases, they have to fit into each other. That's one thing I learned.
Yeah.
So when we are in a season, you have to listen to all the phases in that season, because you might just miss something there. So don't do that. Be a part of it, all right? So enjoy service, and we will see you right after. God bless you.